Good evening. At 6 o'clock, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Manitou Springs City Council for June the 18th, 2024. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the city clerk please call the roll?
City Council members Judith Chandler,
Present.
John Shada, Julie Wolf,
Here.
Natalie Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune,
Present.
and Mayor Graham,
Present. Thank you.
Michelle Weatherholt.
Present.
I'm sorry. Yes. Good. Okay, we're all here. Good. Quick test to see if we're alert. Okay, great. First, the next item for council is to approve the agenda. You have all had a chance to look at the agenda. It was in your council packet. So unless there's a concern, I would look for a motion to approve and accept the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
A second?
Second.
Okay. And tonight, I understand we're having technical difficulties, so we're gonna go, we can go electric. Okay, so we'll vote electronically.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I was thinking we had a technical glitch, but it looked like that's been resolved, so we can do our voting as per usual electronically. Okay, next item is public comment on non-agenda items. And I know we have at least 3 requests to speak to non-agenda items. I will mention we also have one for a Creek Walk comment. So to Katie Clavin, we'll get to that later on in the meeting. You'll have an opportunity to speak at that point. So I'll take these in the order I received them. Jeff Beery. Jeff, you're first. Okay, and if you give us your name and address, you have 3 minutes, and typically we do not respond back to comments. Yeah, it has to be green. And then if you can get
Okay.
about 3 inches from the microphone, that's good.
My name is Jeff Beery. I reside at 386 Pilot Knob. I have a couple of concerns I'd like to place in front of the council this evening. I've written them out. Hopefully I'll fall within my 3-minute allotment. It's big font. The first is in relation to the anonymous text campaign that many of the Ruxton Corridor residents received a couple of weeks back. The premise of the city accepting a donation of land to build more roadways into the canyon has all of the residents concerned, and I'm sure frankly in opposition to that. We've all seen the movie Field of Dreams, yes? If you're familiar with the movie, you're familiar with the idea that if you build it, they will come. And there's no doubt amongst us who deal with tourism congestion every day, day in and day out, that additional roadways and parking lots in Ruxton Canyon will inherently add traffic into our residential neighborhoods and further erode the quality of life and public safety. I'd like to take just a moment for the council to consider reversing what appears to be the current philosophy of facilitating vehicle access by visitors into the Ruxton Corridor and overall into Manitou in general. I believe the council's philosophy should be to prohibit traffic into Manitou and into the Ruxton Corridor by all non-residents. In that regard, I'd like to applaud the council for the recent acquisition of the dilapidated motel across from Maggie's Farm to build a parking lot, and for the acquisition and use of shuttles to bring visitors into town. I'm hoping the council will consider that approach to facilitating tourism in the future tenfold. That's the direction I believe the city needs to be going. There are plenty more crack motels along Colorado Avenue that could be raised and allow for parking structures. I'd also like to say that the recent campaign for this free land, and I put that in quotes, free land to the city, has a very similar feel to it as a recent land swap that was instigated by the Broadmoor, and which was the primary organization that to benefit from this freebie because of its ownership of the COG. I think there's probably some backdoor dealing going on that we should all be aware of. The Ruxton Corridor land grab feels very much like the land grab that was involved in the Strawberry Fields acquisition a few years back. And that was an obvious act of class warfare that I feel resulted in a gated community which only benefits a few. I have a really hard time believing the Broadmoor is not somehow involved in this anonymous campaign to acquire land for this parking lot and egress and ingress out of the canyon. So that's my main concern. If I have a few minutes left, a few seconds left.
Yeah, a few seconds. If you could sum up, please.
My second concern is the fire response time to the house that burned down the street a few weeks back. I was on the way home from work. I was traveling past the house. It was fully aflame. There was a crowd in front of the house. And I managed to crawl along behind a tourist and find that the fire engines were still in the station up here in Manitou. So I just mentioned that as a concern. I'm a little baffled by why the engines weren't down there taking care of the fire in that time. So that's what I have to say. Thank you for your time. I hope that you'll consider a new approach to business, doing business in Manitou. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. See next, James R. Bullens.
Thank you for having me. My name is James R. Bullens Jr. I am running for House District 18. I will be on the November ballot. I'm a different kind of a politician because of the fact that I work for a living. I haul concrete. I'm a contractor, carpenter contractor. You guys saw me here 2 weeks ago, and you will continue to see me until the November ballot. And after the November ballot, when I win that seat, you'll see me here again and again and again. I'm not here to beat up on you guys. I do want to know the issues that your community has. And so 2 weeks ago, we saw some chaos go on here. And so I will be walking Ruxton Avenue, and I will be talking to some of the residents to make sure that they understand. If there are things that you guys can forward off to me, I would be more than happy to pass that on to your residents as I walk and talk to those people. I've been through your town here, and I love the quaintness of it, and I hope that it never changes. I believe that too many towns like this across the country that, as I've traveled, have been overrun by corporations, and it would be a shame to see this quaint little town disappear like that. And so I just want you to know, and I want the residents behind me to know that I will be here supporting you. And I think that's probably a different thing for most politicians to be in here, making sure that things go the way they should be. And I appreciate your guys' time. My name is James R. Bullens Jr.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Good. Next, Richard Larson.
Brought a dissertation with me. I was just kidding. Richard Larson, 120 Becker's Lane, Manitou. I came to address an issue I'm having with the Route 36 bus. All I want to do is ride the bus. In past years, I've been a frequent rider of the 36 route. The drivers have had customer service skills in the past. They talk to customers, they talk to visitors, they talk to residents, answer questions. They were friendly. That's all changed significantly this year. Fields Park has always been a place where the bus would stop and wait for a few or several minutes and for people to board the bus if they were walking on foot. It doesn't pull over and wait anymore. If the driver does not see someone standing specifically at the stop, he will whiz by. This has now become an express bus. This is no longer a customer service bus. This is not I don't know who told them to just fly by the bus stops, but that's what they do now. I've had occasion and I've made a list of the days and times when I see the bus drive by and or when I'm standing at a stop and the driver does not stop. Most recently, yesterday afternoon, as I stood at the bus stop and the bus drove by. Now, this began several weeks ago. I began to detail it in May. Bus drove past me as I stood at the bus stop or at the park bench in the shade. Bus driver did not make any effort to slow down or anything. And let's see, on June 2nd, the bus drove past me again, standing at the bus stop. This time I waited for it to return. That took 45 minutes. Even though the schedule on the QR code at the bus stop says that the bus in real time is supposed to come back in 20 minutes. Took 45. Now I'll give it that it was a Saturday afternoon and they've extended the route. However, the schedule needs to change and be updated and reflect something in reality. So after waiting 45 minutes, or while I was waiting for it, I was joined by two of my neighbors and we all rode into town on the bus together. Let's see. And Elizabeth, our neighbor, asked the driver to stop up here at near the Ruxton roundabout. Driver said he doesn't know where the bus stops are. And she had to announce to him by voice, this is where she wanted to stop. She had to announce by voice because the bus is not equipped to carry more than 6 people or to.
Rick, you're at 3 minutes. Can you sum it up, please?
Yeah. I want the bus. Yeah, I want to be able to ride the bus. I want to have a bus experience where I can ride into town back and forth. And I'm being denied that. And something has changed with the bus service.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that was everyone who'd filled out a little form to speak. I don't know if there's anybody else in the audience who wishes to speak. Isla?
Isla Quinn, 357 Pilot Knob Avenue. I have checked the city website every day since the meeting.
Isla, we can't hear you. Can you get the microphone a little closer, about 3 inches or so?
I have checked the city website every day to see if the identity of the person who sent that, in my opinion, outrageous survey has been identified. I have not seen any notification that that person has been identified. I know you don't comment. So if somebody could update me either personally or publicly through your website, I'd appreciate it. I do want to know who sent that survey.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Apparently not. And Katie, yours is specific to the Creek Walk, so when we get to that, you'll have an opportunity. Okay, so our next item is the consent calendar. We have 4 items. First, presentation of warrants. Second, approval of the June 4th, 2024 City Council regular meeting minutes. Third, Art on the Avenue, the 2024 review and authorization. Fourth, consider reappointing Aaliyah German to the Housing Advisory Board as regular member. So the consent calendar is something we typically act on as a single item. Any council member can request that something be pulled off and discussed separately. If there is no desire to pull something off and discuss it separately, I'd accept a motion to accept and approve the consent calendar as presented.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented. Second.
Motion is second. Okay, let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next item is presentation. It's proclamation number 0524, a proclamation to recognize June 2024 as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex Pride Month. And Counselor Weatherholt will be reading the proclamation.
Thank you. Before I read the proclamation, I wanted to let everyone know that we are having the second annual Pride Festival Saturday, June 29th at 11 o'clock in Soda Springs Park. Proclamation number 0524 to recognize lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex pride. Whereas during lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex LGBTQI+ Pride Month, we reflect on the progress we have made as a city in the fight for justice, inclusion, and equality while reaffirming our commitment to do more to support LGBTQI+ rights. Whereas the nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles, including that every person has been created equal, that all have rights to their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that all shall be afforded the full recognition and protection of the law. And whereas the city of Manitou Springs recognizes the importance of equality and freedom and is dedicated to fostering acceptance of all its citizens and preventing discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And whereas on November 19th, 2022, we experienced a devastating attack by a gunman wielding a long rifle at Club Q, an LGBTQI+ nightclub in Colorado Springs. Places that are supposed to be safe spaces of acceptance and celebration should never be turned into places of terror and violence. Whereas, despite these attacks, the LGBTQI+ community remains resilient. LGBTQI+ Americans are defiantly and unapologetically proud. Whereas June has become a symbolic month in which the LGBTQI+ community and supporters come together in various celebrations of pride. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Manitou Springs City Council does hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as LGBTQI+ Pride Month annually in Manitou Springs and encourages all residents to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQI+ community and to actively promote the principles of equality and liberty. Adopted this 18th day of June 2024 in the city of Manitou Springs, El Paso County, Colorado.
Thank you, Michelle. And if there's any council members who'd like to make comments, this would be an opportunity to do so. I guess not. All right. Thank you, Michelle. Let's move on then. Our first business item tonight is to receive an update and to take action on the Creek Walk Trail Phase 4 design. I believe we have John Chavez here to walk us through that, and Glenn Ellis. Gentlemen.
Good evening, council members. Thank you very much for having us. I'm John Chavez, owner of Chavez Consulting, Inc., currently under contract with the city of Manitou Springs. And with me is...
Yeah, I'm Glenn Ellis with JR Engineering, Client Manager.
And gentlemen, if you could keep your microphones again about 3 inches, it's a little deceiving, but this is being relayed to the rest of the world.
There we go. I think that might be better.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So tonight, the purpose of our presentation is to provide the council and the citizens of Manitou Springs with a brief overview of the Creek Walk Trail Phases 4 and 5. Next slide, please. Oh, I have control of this slide. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let me make sure. I'm going to go back. Let me play with this. Just want to make sure I got it. Okay. Okay. So As you know, this is a section of Creek Walk Trail that is part of a larger master plan for a Creek Walk Trail throughout the city of Manitou Springs. This particular phase of the trail picks up where phase 3 left off, which is at the west end at Mayfair Street. This section of trail is proposed right now to currently exist within the right-of-way of Manitou Avenue. The decision was made some time ago to keep it in the right-of-way to not create any new disturbances and to assist in the environmental clearances with the project. Pedestrian improvements, amenities, wayfinding upgrades, which include signage, are all part of the project. As we'll talk about here in a few minutes, the plans are what are called a 90% stage. We've been coordinating with CDOT, which I will explain why here shortly. And we're currently have a schedule that would enable the project to go out to bid for construction in August, with a start of construction anticipated after the coffin races to avoid any conflict with that high traffic event. And as I'll mention more completely, this project is federally funded. This is a graphical representation of the alignment of the Creek Walk Trail. The end of the project is at Mayfair Street on the east side there, and the beginning of the project currently picks up at the guardrail on the east side of the Chase Bank property. Currently, we only have plans for phase 4. As part of the project description, which is right there, and I know that's a lot of text, so I'm going to just switch through that real quickly and focus your attention on that. The project description for this Creek Walk Trail phases 4 and 5 includes survey, right-of-way acquisition, design, and construction. We're currently in a 2-year extension on the funding. We've been 4 years into the project. And phase 4, as I mentioned, extends from the Chamber of Commerce building along Manitou Avenue across Fountain Creek via an existing bridge and terminates at 10 Old Man's Trail. Phase 5 will extend the trail from the Hiawatha Gardens Transit Hub at 10 Old Man's Trail and extend to City Hall. As I mentioned, that we have no design for that yet. This is the way the project was described for the funding purposes. The funding is summarized at the bottom. The city received $400,000 for phases 4 and 5 from the Colorado Department of Transportation, CDOT, their Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP. That funding source is what federalized the project. And then there is also a $100,000 local match and a $400,000 state grant from the Multimodal Opportunities Fund. So the total grant funding, including the local match available for the project, is $1 million. As I mentioned, construction plans are at 90% complete, and we're almost ready for submittal to CDOT. We are in the process of making some minor design changes to the plans. We're currently looking at adding what we're calling bump outs into the alignment, basically to provide some traffic calming and also some opportunities for artwork and or trees or other landscaping. Currently, through the federal funding process, all required clearances are in place except for the utility clearance. There is some undergrounding of utilities associated with this project that have not quite yet been complete. We are working with the new engineering firm, which is Glenn here with JR Engineering, to complete the final plans and submittal to CDOT. The existing plans that we have were completed to the 90% phase by a prior consulting engineer firm, Jacobs Engineering. And we are currently in the process of working out contract arrangements with JR Engineering to basically complete those plans and get us to submission of the final plan set for to CDOT for approval to proceed with construction. So mentioned phase 5, no work has been completed on this phase thus far. I'm recommending to the city administration that we submit a funding extension request to CDOT. The current funding agreement expires December 31st, 2024. And by the definition of the project, which includes the survey, right-of-way acquisition, design, and construction, we have to have it all completed by that time. And since where we are in phase 5, that it won't happen. So we'll have to just submit an extension for that. We completely with the existing set of plans, we expect that we will exhaust all of the existing available funds if we proceed to construction as it is currently designed. As I mentioned, the total project budget is $1 million. There's the breakdown there of the 500,000 in multimodal options funds, the 100,000 in local funds, and the 400,000 in CDOT TAP funds. To date, the city has spent approximately $220,000 on the project thus far, getting us to the 90% plan stage and also through the existing clearance processes. We've been reimbursed approximately $172,000 from CDOT thus far on the project, and we have a remaining balance of about, I'm going to say $775,000. Over the last 2 weeks, we had the pleasure of taking the city council members on walks of the Creek Walk alignment in an effort to pick up some additional comments and some input on the existing plan set, and also to take a look and discuss an alternate alignment of the project. There has been a desire expressed that we take a look at what if we want to alter the alignment and move it to the north and take it out of the right of way and move it into the existing dirt trail that runs along this extent, right along the edge of the south edge of Fountain Creek. So we did that last week, and it was a quite delightful event. We had some really good discussion with everybody, and basically what we, it's all conceptual right now. And so we just had an opportunity to talk about what it would look like conceptually and what some of the challenges would be. Clearly, using the existing funding, there would need to be a complete redesign of the project that would be required in order to get this alternate alignment moving. And likewise, since it is existing, the option is existing out of the right of way, there would be a series of additional clearances that we would have to go back through the CDOT funding process in order to proceed with that. But anyhow, we did take a good look at that, and it's really a beautiful corridor, and it has a lot of challenges. As I mentioned, it would require a complete redesign from where we are. I mentioned the clearances. There are a couple of storm drainage crossings. There are 3 storm drains currently in the plan set that exist in the on Manitou Avenue. Basically, the current plans only account for making modifications and moving the inlets and some minor pipe modifications to make the connections happen. If we were to move it to, if we were to move the trail closer to the creek, we would have to account for those stormwater crossings during that process. Likewise, it's a very tight corridor down there. And if we were to try to put a 10-foot trail, which is, we're using multimodal options funds. So this has to be per the funding agreement, 10-foot wide trail to accommodate multiple bike and pedestrian traffic in both directions. We would probably need to do a fair amount of bank stabilization to make a trail safe down in that area. I believe that there probably will also be some additional permitting required. Moving the trail that close to the creek would impact the floodplain, and from a construction and a constructability standpoint, there may be sections where the equipment would have to actually work in the creek to get the work done. And as we would be required, the current alignment proposes a bridge to cross the creek from the south to the north, approximately three parcels to the east from the Hiawatha Gardens, and basically the proposed realignment would run along the existing floodplain wall, and then we would need to get up into the Hiawatha Gardens from the southeast corner. There are a lot of trees down there that some would need to be removed, and basically we would need to go back through the funding process, redefine the project. And it's all doable. It's just something that we would have to do so that the project description clearly matches the funding sources. And as I mentioned earlier, the existing funding ending date is December 31st of 2024. I've been in contact with CDOT. We're geared up and prepped to obtain an extension if we need to. So we put together a little matrix to kind of look at the two options. One, from a fairly clear understanding perspective, we've got a pretty good handle on option one, which is the existing plans, with coming up with some conceptual costs and items that would be required for the alternate alignment. One thing I do want to note, in the potential cost column for the current design, you'll see $1,290,000. That is the engineering cost estimate that was provided by Jacobs relative to the 90%. So that is just what Jacobs Engineering anticipated what this project would cost as it is existing, as it's designed now. So as it's designed, we're potentially a little over $250,000 over budget. If we take a look at the alternate alignment, because of all of the unknowns, because of the permitting cost, because of the bank stabilization, the bridge, the expected potential costs, escalate from 1.2 million to 3 to possibly 4.5 million. The time frame to complete the project, right now, the existing alignment, we could be into the bidding phase within a few months and completed with construction by spring of 2025. If we move forward with an alternate alignment, we're probably looking at an additional 6 to 12 months just to get this project started because of the design. And then to complete the project is probably, there's a lot of unknowns in there, but could easily take, a year, and then that would put us out into June of 2027 before we'd see a trail in operation down there. The other end of that is currently, as I mentioned, we have about $770,000 remaining. Currently, that would go to either one of the projects, and so there's an over/under budget. I mistakenly put that option one is on budget. That technically it's proposed to be $290,000 over budget. So that is our overview of the two alternatives. I know it was very quick and really high level. This is a picture that I snapped while we were down there, and I just wanted to keep this picture in place. It's hard to see. I took the picture from Hiawatha Gardens, but what I'm showing in the center of that screen is a series, I believe there are 4 rows of what are called gabion baskets that were placed in that location. I did work back in 2013 as part of the Waldo Canyon fire. I don't recall those going in then. So my guess is they're older than that. But they are a temporary bank stabilization method and a very common one. After we've gone through with a few of the different council members, we may not need to worry about this area based on the realignment and and where we would cross. But I just want to express that the bank would need to be stabilized in order to make a safe trail go through there. That's pretty clear and important. Any questions? And I know you have them.
Julie, please.
Just real quick, when was the 1,290,000 estimate prepared, how old is that?
That would have been prepared,
It was last year.
yeah, last fall when the 90%.
Year ago?
Yeah.
And how much of price has gone up since then roughly? In
I
terms of
haven't
construction
compared,
stuff,
but it could be 5 to 10%.
5 to 10%? Okay, and also just curious, why are we switching engineering firms?
I don't have the background on that. When I came into working with that, the discussions from the prior city engineer and they had already contacted JR. I wasn't given any background as to why that switch was made. And I honestly can't answer that question.
Does that create extra work where they have to pick up where the other people started and figure out I mean.
There is
that's-
some extra work, yeah. in
Yeah, I
terms
would
of
imagine
understanding
there's
their
a
design.
good
and-
reason to
Yeah.
incur all that extra expense.
I mean, we'd have to, because it's their plans and we have to stamp them, we have to essentially run through the design efforts to understand and certify that design. So this plan set was created in the fall, like John had indicated, and we were notified early spring. So I don't know what kind of conversations occurred in between that period of time.
Thank you.
So-
Council, other questions for John and Glenn at this point? Judith?
I have one question and then later I have some comments, but and thank you for your time in taking us on the Creek Walk Trail. The question that I asked you, John, was about does the 10 feet have to be contiguous? I am concerned about those trees, those 7 trees that are slated to come out. In fact, I drove by the way, it looks like one tree's already been removed. So, something's out there. There's just a stump. So did you find out that answer? And could you explain that to me?
I looked into that answer and I researched it for you. I contacted CDOT. This is, a CDOT funded project. And, laughingly, my local agency representative, he chuckled, he says, well, John, we're CDOT. We don't really build trails. He says, what we do is we rely on other established trail criteria. So he suggested, and he had no CDOT reference for a standard that he could give me. So he suggested that, I do what most people do. I Googled Trail Design Standards, Colorado. And it resulted, I got a bunch of hits. I saw the city of Colorado Springs's trail design standards. I looked at the city of Lakewood's. There was a Department of Wildlife and Parks and the Division of Wildlife. All of them reference a 10-foot wide trail. None of them make that clear distinction of whether it needs to be contiguous or not, but all the criteria specifically mention that the trail needs to be 10 feet in order to accommodate both pedestrian and bike traffic in both directions. And so they're allotting 5 feet lanes for one direction and 5 feet lanes for the other direction. So my interpretation of all of these trail development design guidelines and the additional narrative criteria that goes with the 10-foot, i.e. safe passage for pedestrians and bikes in both directions. My interpretation of all of that collectively would say it needs to be 10 feet contiguous. So if you've got a 3-foot tree in the middle of the trail, then you're looking at 12 feet minimum. Now, it allows for signage and for pedestrian guidance. So there could be an ability to shrink that from 10 feet and 10 feet to another number if in fact you've got signage that can correspond one direction so that you don't have a conflict. But I would err on the side of conservatism and say you really need to have the 10 feet on both sides.
A follow-up question to that, where those 7, now probably 6 trees are, we're talking about 2 to 3 feet between the tree and that current sidewalk next to the social trail.
Mm-hmm.
Is there room to bump it out 10 feet into Manitou Avenue? It just on those areas where the trees are?
Well, that's a really good question, and Glenn and I have been talking about that a lot today.
There, yes, there would be, but there's areas where because of you want to have your curb line continuous and not zigzagging throughout because of the lane usage. It would be problematic, but it would definitely shrink down your lanes and potentially eliminate parking areas in those areas. But it is doable if you want to add the trail in between the tree and the roadway.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from council at this point? What I might suggest then is we have at least one individual in the audience who'd like to speak to this. So let's give her an opportunity, anybody else who wants to, and then we'll bring John and Glenn back for further discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. Katie, would you like to? Okay, so same rules apply, 3 minutes. You give us your name and address to start. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Katie Clavon. I'm on 478 Crystal Hills Boulevard. I'm here to say I'm really for the first alternative that we have. As a mom, I've had to push a stroller between, where phase 4 is during coffin races. And I can tell you, you can't pass 2 strollers on that. And now that my kids are older and we try to bike into Manitou, that's the sketchiest part because you either put them on the sidewalk where they have to get off when people walk by, or you put them on the road. I think it's fantastic that you're doing it. I like the 10 feet. My concern with maybe wiggling it is drainage. Would we get water that would pool in the wiggles and then we get it frozen like we get on the other side in the winter, which could be a problem. And I do ecosystem restoration. I'm an engineer. I manage ecosystem restoration projects for a living. So I do stream restoration, wetland mitigation. So this is really near and dear to me. I love trees, environmentalist. I'm keen that long distance, I'd rather cut down trees to get a good thing now, plant new ones. That means 20 years from now, when they're here, that is the best it could be. And I'm okay with that, even though you can come see my garden. I'm a huge tree person. And my concern with the new alternative is that what we have right now in Fountain Creek, a small dirt path down there, is so unique in this watershed. You go into the city of Colorado Springs and it's all pavement. This is the one place where you can get down there in a city center and you have solitude and you can really connect with nature. I mean, you see kids playing in Fountain Creek and Manitou in a way you do not see them doing that in Monument Creek and Colorado Springs, where they have a bunch of pavement. And so I'd be very hesitant to go and put that much pavement into the floodplain that close to Fountain Creek is one of the few places where you can really connect with nature. I'd really prefer to keep the pavement up on the road. And I'd be concerned, you got water quality issues. We have trout bearing streams down there. You got to talk about doing bank stabilization. And I can tell you that you put a new bridge across Fountain Creek and you're trying to get a no rise, that can be tricky. And God forbid you can't do it. Clomers and Lomers to get through FEMA, you're looking at $100K just to get the floodplain permit if you have to go that route. Whereas if you keep it up on the road, it's just a lot cleaner. And then you can keep that social trail for the people who kind of want to get away from the crowds. Like we want tourists coming down and people from Colorado Springs coming to the coffin races up on the road and leave the trail down by the creek for the residents of Manitou who know it's there and want to connect to nature and be down there. And then you also don't have the impacts to the environment. So those are my thoughts. I'm so thrilled you're doing this. But I've walked both, I've biked both, and I think your alternative one is really the way to go. It's just my personal opinion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address this? All right, sir.
My name's Mark Slater. I live on 302 Pilot Knob, and I've walked that social trail next to Fountain Creek for years, for at least 30 years. And it's my favorite part of the whole walk on the Creekside Trail is, as the previous woman said, that it's the only place on the Fountain Creek watershed where you have a chance to be next to the creek and not have concrete or asphalt next to you. So I'm very supportive of alternative one, what the current alternative, and and I also see that we're trying to, I think it's important for people to see that that Manitou Avenue is still busy, that we still have a lot of traffic. And do we want to acknowledge that we have a long ways to go before we're a sustainable city? And we're not doing that by putting concrete next to a creek. I hope that we can keep that area more natural without a lot of disturbance. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if not, if we could have the engineers back up, John and Glenn. So council, I guess this would be a good time to, if you have further questions and whatnot, let's have some discussion. And then at some point here, I'd just kind of like to go around the table and see what our inclinations are, kind of get a feel for where we're headed. Anybody have questions for the engineers? Nancy?
I have no questions, but I do have some comments I'd like to make. I have worked on the Creek Walk for many years now, and as has the entire community. There's been tons of community engagement. This is a 20+ year project overall in various phases, and it's been slow but steady. And it's been consistent in kind of the principles of what folks wanted. So I completely agree with Katie. We've been talking about that sidewalk for years and how bad it is for pedestrian and bike. You just can't really use it. It looks terrible as well. It's a bad visual as you come into the city. So converting that into a 10-walk Creek Walk trail makes a huge deal of sense to me. It's a good spine. We can always do alternatives or branches off the spine later on if so desired. But at this point, I think that we've been looking for this for so long. It's paid for with a 90% design. I would like to see us go forward. So with that, I'd like to move that we approve the original design. Thank you.
That was a formal motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
Seconded by Natalie. Okay, we're at a point for deliberation for the discussion, so Judith?
I thought we were in the questioning phase. I had one more brief question and then I will make a comment. On the plans, I couldn't see, I tried to enlarge them. It looks like there's some areas where there's some stamped concrete. So there's the 10-foot concrete, and then there's some stamped concrete. And then of course we have the concrete street. And I'm wondering if that is the case, if we can't alleviate that stamped concrete area and maybe put in some vegetation and, something nice, pollinator plants or something. Is that possible? Am I reading the plans right? And is that possible?
You're correct. There are portions of the plans or all that section that have the stamped concrete. The direction really would come from council and staff. The direction that we had been provided when we were discussing the project was that would be eliminated so that this trail would go up against the back of the curb. We can certainly, we haven't touched the plans. We haven't done anything with them, so we can leave them as is if that's the direction.
Thank you.
The answer that I would give is it really is not consequential to the funding. It's pretty much an insignificant change. So I don't see any issue with the funding or making that happen.
Thank you. Mayor, may I follow up with my comments?
Yes, please go ahead.
So I thoroughly vetted both options. And what I want to say is I love to have options. It's really great, even though we've had this plan a long time. I love to see new ideas and new vision. And what I'd like to point out, could you go back to slide 10 for a moment? It's the map, that one. So if I may, so this red line, option 1, this whole sidewalk up here, as Mayor Pro Tem Fortune stated, is in really poor shape. It's not ADA compliant. There's places where it's very uneven. It's dangerous. I can see where somebody with a stroller would have trouble. And so one of my concerns about entertaining this option is we still have to go back and fix this at some, not insignificant expense. So, time and money certainly is a factor, but more importantly, I talked to about a dozen people, and not only do they love this dirt trail, but it's beloved by people in this town. So I walk it all the time. Up here, in order for this alternate plan 2, you'd also have to mess with that bridge a little bit. And that's also an iconic bridge that I don't know if people would be really happy was messed with. Up a little farther, this is a wildlife habitat. Lots of ducks and geese here, as you all know, if you play over there. I'm sure other wildlife. And while I'm not happy, and I'm hoping we can at least entertain some other ideas about the 7 trees coming out, if we had this trail here, I think we'd be losing many more trees. So, that's a trade-off for me. Also, lastly, there's some private property up here, and the condos and apartments. And I don't know about you, but they might have purchased or lived there because they're right by the creek. And I don't know how happy those homeowners would be if we say, and now outside your back door is going to be a 10-foot trail. So I took that into consideration. And I also took into consideration that Hiawatha Gardens, the price for that is still a big question mark. We don't know. So I'm not likely to want to throw a couple extra million on a trail that most of the people that I talk to want closer to the street. Lastly, I will say though, I am intrigued by the idea of a bridge over here somewhere. And I would like at least for us to vet or think about the possibility of a bridge closer to Hiawatha Gardens by the Chase Bank in Creek Walk Phase 5. At least look at it, but certainly not included in this so that we can move forward with getting this project started. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. I think we're moving towards the vote then. I guess I would ask Mayor Pro Tem who made the motion to restate it for purpose of clarity.
I move we approve the original design for them to progress from the 90 to 100% on the original design.
And Natalie, you seconded. Is that your understanding? You're consistent with that? Okay.
May I entertain a friendly amendment to that? I would like this to be contingent upon seeing your plans for the bump out, because you said you were going to make some changes. And while I'm, 90% there, just like you are with the project, I would really like to see the actual drawings and plans for that. Is that possible?
Absolutely. When we finalize that set of plans, in fact, we will present them in draft form to you before we submit them to the CDOT. And we can get some final input from you before that final submittal to CDOT. That shouldn't be an issue.
So I don't know if that needs to be a friendly amendment or not, but I would like that to happen. So just wanted to make that comment.
I think that would be part of the normal process, the way it's normally done. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's needed for the amendment. I don't know if I characterize it that way. Denise, would you like to address
It's
that?
basically saying move forward with this plan. We'll move forward and make those few changes. And then, of course, there'll be little, if you say that you want a tree here or a bench there, we'll make those changes. But it allows us to go forward with this alternate or with this plan and move forward with the plans accordingly. And then we will come back with a final approval.
Okay, thank you. Is council okay with that? Does everyone understand? Okay, good. Okay, last call. Any further discussion? Questions, comments? Okay, let's.
Motion passes with 5-0, and the dissenting votes are Councilor Julie Wolf and John Shada.
Thank you. Very good. Yeah. 5-2. 5-2, yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks, gentlemen. I guess we'll see you again in a few months, something like that, whatever.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, the next item, second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 0524, an ordinance of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, approving two loans from the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority, authorizing the forms and execution of loan agreements and governmental agency bonds to evidence such loans, authorizing the construction of projects, prescribing other details in connection therewith. Okay,
Mayor, I don't have Becca in here. I can go get her real quick if you'd like, or if there are questions. We made the changes that you requested on the ordinance, so it may be a very simple hearing and a motion and second. So while you open, if there's, I can run and grab her real quick.
right. Council, if there's questions, we can certainly get Becca in here. I think we looked at this 2 weeks ago or so, and we had one or two minor corrections. If there's concern or questions, we'll go ahead and get Becca. If not, I think I'd be inclined to go ahead and open the public hearing, the public comments portion. Does anybody need Becca? Guess not. Okay. So with that, I will open up the public comments. So anyone who would like to speak to this item is welcome to do so now. Any takers? Okay, public comments are closed. Denise, do you have any comments?
No, I just want to emphasize again, we did get $1 million forgiveness, which is huge as we take on this loan. And it is really to work on our water treatment plant and in that area that we need to get up to speed. So thank you.
Right. And actually, Denise, I guess for the benefit of the audience, if you could just hit the highlights there, we're going to be doing several things, and then we're placing water and sewer lines on Midland Avenue. If you could just refresh
It does
my memory.
include the replacement of the water and the water and the sewer lines on Midland. There are numerous projects that we're doing at the water treatment plant that this will be doing, and it will be a couple of years of doing all those projects. We can't get them all done immediately. So it's really taking care of the water treatment plant and also the retention pond that we have to do, that state, we have to get that completed and redone. It's a state requirement, so it will manage all of those things that the state has asked us to get completed over the next couple of years.
Good, thank you. Council, any additional questions or comments? I think we've gone over this reasonably well. Judith?
I was just gonna do a motion to approve on second reading ordinance number 0524.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion or deliberation? Apparently not. Let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Very good. The motion passes unanimously. That's great news for Manitou. We've got $1 million of forgiveness, so that's like a Santa Claus gift. And then Denise, also, I think we got a grant of over $100,000 for the backflow pond, so that also helps.
That's for the retention pond. So yes, that will pay half of it, which is a
Okay.
great thing.
All right, good job. Congratulations to staff. Okay, we are at receive or act on council correspondence. Anyone have anything? Nancy?
Just that I'm going up to the CML conference tomorrow for a couple of days, and it seems, looking at the agenda, that it'll be mostly on or a lot of sessions on affordable and accessible housing. So I'm looking forward to hearing the latest and greatest on that. Thanks.
Okay, great. Very good. In council, I had forwarded you an email earlier today. I hope you had a chance to look at it. We have had a request from David and Chris Jenkins to come and present their ideas in a meeting. They had asked to do this in an executive session. In the advice of our attorney, I think we would need to do that as an open meeting. I want to see if council has any interest in doing that. We'll put it to a vote, or at least have some discussion if you want. Any thoughts? Nancy?
I'm at this point in time, unless I hear differently from folks, I'm not really feeling a need to hear from them any further. It seems like there's strong support or there's strong community feelings about this and as well as council feelings about it, I believe. So I'd be interested to hear what other councilors have to say about it.
John?
I think since a lot of this discussion has been happening in executive session, I guess I would encourage them to come forward with their presentation so the public could kind of see what's been going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Judith?
I would also support a public meeting with enough head start to give the community more than 3 days notice of this meeting so that we can get a really good, solid community turnout to hear their presentation. And I am very much looking forward to the community's feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
Piggybacking on Judith's idea, I would like to see a minimum of 2 weeks' notice because that's what the community had asked for, and it's perfectly reasonable for us to comply.
Okay, thank you. You'd be in favor of having a public meeting, okay? With a minimum 2 weeks notice. I don't think that would be a problem because the soonest we could do it, I think, would be the July 16th meeting. At the soonest, and it could be later. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julie.
May I follow up? Would
Sure.
it be a question? So it would be the kind of meeting where the public is allowed to participate and to give their comments and not one of these, oh, we don't want to hear from you. We just want to hear from the Jenkins. It's not going to be like that, right? It's going to be for everybody
I
to
think-
participate?
I guess my read on that would be we would let them make their presentation, have council ask questions, and then open up for public comment. I think that would be reasonable. And coming away from that, it would be pretty easy to imagine there'd be as many questions as there would be answers, but at least it would be,
Okay,
get the ball rolling or whatever.
that sounds reasonable to me too. I just wanted to give the public some idea of what to expect.
Okay, all righty. Natalie?
I don't have a strong opinion either way, so a public presentation is fine.
Okay, either way. And Michelle?
I'm good with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. And Nancy, you had a follow-on thought?
Follow on is just that whatever we do must be in general session, no executive session, definitely. Thank you.
Right, okay. And just to clarify, their letter to council did request an executive session, but I think we have legal reasons to say it's going to be in public session or none. So, and I would be good with, having a public discussion on this. So, all right. Well, if council has no objection, then we'll let them know with the stipulation that it'd be a public meeting. So, Linda, you're out of order. You're not recognized, but there would be 2 weeks or more. Okay. All right. Anything else for council correspondence? Okay. If not, let's go on to the city administrator's report.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things is Tuesday, June 25th, we are doing, taking people through the Carnegie Library, so you can sign up online to have that completed. Also, we do have the panic buttons installed and throughout the city, and we have them here, so it helps with safety. And we'll be bringing to you on July, whatever date that is, the next meeting, I'm sorry, July 6th, I believe, the paving contracts. So that's our goal. So that was asked last time. So we'll be bringing that to you. And we'll probably be bringing on that date also, I'm sorry, July 9th, the Hiawatha contract that you guys asked us to revisit and look at the scope. So if it's over that 50,000, we'll be bringing that to you for approval on the July 9th also. So we'll be bringing a lot on that meeting for you to consider.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, and I should have mentioned, we will not have a meeting next week, which is the 25th of June. And the following week, we won't have a meeting. That's July the 2nd. That's kind of impacts the 4th of July holiday. So we will have a robust meeting on July the 9th, though. If there's no objections, we'll do that. Okay. Okay, let's see. So the next piece of business we have is an executive session. I will read it and seek a motion, go into executive session, then we'll take a little break while we make the transition. Executive session, an executive session pursuant to section 5.1C of the Manitou Springs Home Rule Charter for conference with an attorney for legal advice pursuant to section 5.1D of the Manitou Springs Home Rule Charter for determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. The following additional details are provided for informational purposes. The executive session concerns potentially adjusting the city's special retail marijuana sales tax. So I would seek a motion in a second to go into executive session. Okay.
Second, oh, go
A
ahead.
motion and a second. Okay, let's vote.
And the motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's take a short break and then we'll come back for executive session. Elena, would 20 after give you time to get set up? Okay, thank you.